So I've decided to focus this whole thing on just that first objective. And in your sort of all of the supporting materials, there's a bunch of videos that you probably watched already. So I might be reiterating some of those things that you've already learned or read, and I might add a few things. And I actually might leave a few things out because this is kind of a personal objective as well, I guess is the best way I can say that. But I'll address that. So why don't we begin? Ben, you can go to the next slide. So the question is, why does art matter? This is, by the way, this is just going to be me talking for like 10 minutes, and then I'm going to have an activity for all of us to do. So these are all of the reasons. Some of them, again, are from your supporting materials from the objective. Some I just kind of added or reworded. So it can add something extra to the objects we use every day. Oh, and I also have slides for each of these. So I'm just going to go through them real quick, and then we'll break them down. It can help us see things in other parts of our lives more clearly. It can be therapeutic. And that way it can provide what's missing, or it can reinforce things that we think are important. It can inspire us to act politically, artistically, courageously, otherwise. It is inspirational. And finally, the last reason I put here, but again, there might be more reasons than this. It can connect us to others and to our past. So there is a historical aspect to art, and there's also just sort of this people aspect that we can see each other through art. Okay, you go to the next slide then. I'm glad that all worked out. Okay, so to begin, and this is something that is pervasive in all of our lives, is that art is kind of all around us. My examples here are a chair or a fork can be transformed from a banal object, or just something that's kind of meaningless and you would just, not take a second look at, to something that's more sacred and perhaps aesthetically pleasing. And, you can fill your life with these things. And most of us do. When we decorate our houses, we don't, we see something that that resonates with us, and we go, oh, I want that, chair, or I want that music box or something. And then these decorative arts, they're not just about sort of creating something sacred or aesthetically pleasing, but there are like schools of thought. There are design manuals. There are all of these things about like specific kinds of designs. And so across time and across geography, there are different styles that pop up. And these styles basically make ordinary things more interesting. And so I've chosen 3 images here. I don't know if anybody is familiar with any of these 3 images, but the first one on the left is a room from Çatalhöyük, which is a Neolithic settlement in the, oh man, I'm gonna forget where it is, somewhere in the Middle East. But these are people from 25,000 years ago, or that's too long, 10,000 years ago, that decorated their homes. You can see there's bull horns in there. They plastered the walls. Çatalhöyük was kind of an interesting place because it was like rooms built on top of rooms. They would bury their dead in between the floors. But you can see in that picture too, there's like these kind of niches in the walls where they put things. And so this idea of decorating and using art to sort of fill the holes in our lives basically has been around for a long time. That middle thing is an Art Nouveau table. And Art Nouveau had this emphasis of organic forms. And so everything has this kind of undulating sort of organic lines. And then to the right there, that's a bowl that uses the, I'm gonna not say this right, kintsugi method of repair. So basically, in Japanese culture, and I think this has to do with Zen Buddhism, but it's like if you break something, instead of just throwing it away, you repair it. But then the reparation, the way that you repair it becomes artistic. And you can see that they use this sort of gold enamel to kind of glue the thing together. And I don't know if any of you have seen, I think it's the Rise of Skywalker, the Star Wars movie. But there's a point where Kylo Ren like uses this red line thing to piece together his helmet that he'd broken in the earlier movie. And it's based on this kintsugi style of art making in Japan. So, okay, so that's the first thing. Art matters because we kind of surround ourselves with it, and it helps us to appreciate the things that are around us. Okay, you go to the next one, Dan. Art matters because it helps us see things that we might have overlooked. And this, actually, from this class, you are going to develop this skill. And if you take any art history courses after this, you will hone that skill. But this is kind of, I don't know if you watched the video with the woman who talks about the train coming out of the wall, the Magritte painting. And then she says that she uses art history to help police officers and medical, like doctors, to sort of see things they might have missed. And that painting by Magritte that she talks about with the train coming out of the wall, it makes you think of all kinds of crazy things. It makes you think of questions, but also it brings your attention to things if you just start to scrutinize it. So scrutinizing an artwork not only helps you understand the artwork itself, but then when you go to look at other artworks, you've developed this ability to scrutinize. And then the bigger benefit is that you can use this sort of interrogation process in any part of your life. So if you're looking for your keys, you can go, okay, why is that there? Where was it? It can be used in a number of different ways. And my favorite painting to sort of illustrate this point is this painting by Hans Holbein, and it's called The Ambassadors. And I need to move you guys because you're right in front of it. I'll put you over here. So in this painting, this is from the 1500s, and there's these two guys. I don't know if they might be related. One is like a worldly fellow, and he's the one with the fur coat, and the other is a Catholic priest, and he also has a fur coat, but it's more subdued. And the more you look at this painting, the more you're like, what is happening? Why are all these things here? Why are these guys standing this way? And that's kind of what art does, is it makes you keep asking why? Why is this here? So here's a few questions. Why on the top of the table are there all of these sort of instruments that measure the heavens? And why on the bottom are there all these kinds of, musical notebooks and maps and stuff? And that the answer to that is because they're trying to sort of emphasize both realms of existence, right? Like we look up, but we also live here. And then you ask, well, why is that guy holding that thing in his hand? And that has, Holbein has kind of painted the date of his birth on it. And then the other guy has a book and his birth date is on it. But then the big thing is, what in the heck is that weird thing that's sticking out of the bottom of the painting? Does anybody know what it is, by the way? Can anybody see the weird thing that's kind of jutting into the bottom? Does anybody know? Okay, well, I don't know if you could do this, but if you could take the computer and like look at it from the side and above and look at that thing, you'll be able to see what it is. So just to the right and sort of looking down at it, you might be able to make it out what that thing is. But I think you have to be above it a little bit. In fact, at the museum where this is hanging, I think they have a chair where you can stand on it so you can look at it in this way.
I would say a surfboard, but it maybe a spear.
No, it's something that is you'll see often in Western paintings. It shows up a lot in paintings from Western art. It's just that the painter decided to paint it in a whole different way. Anybody there yet? Okay, so really you got to be like looking at it from the side and sort of down at it. So you're gonna look at it from the right and then down. And then it shrinks it and it turns it into what it's supposed to be. I'll give you 10 more seconds. Did you get it, Ben?
I think I remember from seeing this before.
Okay.
Want me to say what I think it is?
Yeah, if no one else can see it.
I think it's a skull.
It is a skull. Yeah, it's a skull that's kind of, what's the word for it? Anamorphic? Anamorphs. It's one of those things that turns into an animal. Anthropomorphic. I can't remember the word. There's a term for like stretching and bending an image to change the look of it. But like I said, they would put skulls in paintings all the time during this period of art. But why did Hans Holbein decide to do this weird thing with it? And there's a number of reasons. One is because he understood the sort of the optics, like he was challenging the way that optics, the science of optics was developing. But the other is you can't look at all of the riches of this world and still understand or still make out completely the skull, which is basically a symbol for death or mortality. And if you turn, or if you look at it from the way that you're supposed to look at it to see the skull, then you can't see all of the sort of wealth and everything. So it's this kind of idea of you can't have both. You can't sort of live this great life without. The idea is that you need to focus on one or the other. But if you focus on both at the same time, then something will be distorted. So live your life or you're gonna die. You know, either one of those things is important in this painting. But why I'm going over this painting so much is because this painting is rich with what is happening. And the more you look at it, the more you ask things. I mean, I bet nobody noticed that up in the top left corner, there's like a small crucifix that's kind of poking out of the curtain up there because I had to focus on this skull so much. So the point of this and the point of sort of communing with art or communicating with art is that it gets you going with the asking why or what is happening or what does it matter. And the more you do this with a work of art, the more it comes in handy later on with different works of art. And it just enriches your experience, right? Like had I not said that thing about the skull or maybe the crucifix in the background, you know, you might have just gone on to the next painting. But that's one of the great things about art is that it makes you slow down and really study something. And that process of slowing down and studying can be transferred over to other parts of your life. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Okay, so now I gotta move you again because you're in my way again. You're in my way. The other thing, and this is also one of the videos, and it's one of my favorite angles, I guess, if you were to look at it, is art as therapy. So, you know, I say that artwork can fill the empty spaces, and I mean that both literally and figuratively. I mean, you have walls to fill up, and that's what artwork can do. But also, you know, you might be somebody who's kind of stuck in the house, right? And you wish you could travel, and you see a travel poster, and it's definitely not as good as going there, but it might sort of, you know, give you a feeling of relief or awe, or you know, someday I'm going to get there. You know, it could be that sort of I can't think of the word. It can inspire you to do something new, but or you could be a person whose life is messy and you got a whole bunch of stuff going on, but you love minimalist artwork and your office is clean and, you know, you have a white painting on your wall or something, you know, like there could be something missing in your life, and artwork can sort of fill up what's missing. Or you could have something you believe in, and artwork can sort of reinforce that. You know, you can believe in the humanity, you can believe in like how humanity comes together, and then you have all these sort of works of art that sort of show human beings pulling together. Yeah, April, you have a question?
It's not a question. I just wanted to say it's so funny that you said that, because of course I love art, and there's a virtual Van Gogh museum they set up recently in Dallas, and I went to it, and it's all the Van Gogh museums, the art on the walls, and it's moving around, and it feels like you're like a storybook. Yeah,
all of his artwork inside it, right?
Yeah, it's inside of a building and rooms, and people just go from room to room, and it's dark, and it's like you feel like you're in it with music, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I've never been in a museum that was like active like that. But anyways, I wanted to tell you, in my dining room where I'm sitting is I picked a piece of art to take home, and it's the Insane Asylum in Paris, and it's on my wall. And that's one of my favorite paintings. And I was just like, okay, this is so weird that you guys are in France, and it's on my wall. So,
well, April, I actually want you to keep that in mind, what you just said about this artwork that you brought home, because later on we're going to have an exercise where we actually talk about an artwork that has affected us in some way. And so maybe, you can, I'm going to give you some time, but maybe that's the artwork that you can talk about when we get to that part of the thing. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then another thing, that an artwork can do is it can provoke sympathy or evoke empathy. I always get these two mixed up. Ben, you're the philosophy guy. Maybe you know the difference between the two. But this photo of this escaped slave who actually fought for the Union Army. There was a series of photos of this guy that were used in like abolitionist magazines during the Civil War, and it was like Uncle Tom's Cabin. It had the same sort of effect in that it jolted people awake to the horrors of slavery, and this man has this dignity, but he has these scars that show how horrible this institution is, and so, I mean, you look at that and you think, what kind of a life has this, did this guy have? And then you can be inspired by the second part of the story, which is the fact that he escaped and that he was able to fight with the Union Army. And but it doesn't have to be this extreme. I mean, it can be just, the blues, the music, the blues itself, artwork in its own sort of way is a way of like going, you're sad, I'm sad, let's be sad together. And so, artwork can do that too. You can see a painting of someone crying, or a photograph of someone depressed, and you can go, look, I'm not alone in the world. The other people are kind of experiencing the same thing. And so art has this great sort of therapeutic function to it. And the video, I don't know if he talks about it, but the guy who did that, What is Art For? His name is Alain de Botton. He actually worked with a museum in the Netherlands, and he had them he had them switch up all their art. So instead of it being sort of chronological, he chose like artworks that would cover a theme, like on love or on loss or something. And so when you would go into a room, it wouldn't matter that it was like a work of art from the Renaissance and a modern artwork and something from Japan or something. All of them would be part of the same theme, which was on love or whatever. And so if you approach art in this way, and that it sort of can help you in your life to sort of understand sadness or happiness, whatever, that's a whole new component to art. Yeah, April, you got another question? Or is it still the same thing?
No, I didn't push it again.
Oh, I don't know how to turn off the April raised hand thing. Okay. Okay, next one, Ben. Okay, so, whatever you feel about Barack Obama, I just wanted to put this here because this poster by Shepard Fairey from the 2008 election did sort of make it everywhere, and then there were parodies of it, and then there were awful versions of it. But this original painting by Shepard Fairey, it's there is a line between, like, you know, persuasion and propaganda, and you know, oftentimes that line is subjective. You know, like, you might think that this is propaganda, while I think, no, this is this thing, it like resonates with me and it says something important. But no matter which you feel, art can be inspirational. It can persuade people. I mean, there is in Paris, not too long ago, there was an artist named Olafur Eliasson who's really he really focuses on climate change, and he got like 12 giant sort of chunks of ice from the Arctic Circle, and he put them in a circle in front of a big monument in Paris, and it was like a clock, and basically the ice chunks were kind of melting, and he was trying to say, like, time is ticking, you know, like, we have to handle this climate change thing. And if you go visit it, you're in the middle of this giant circle of icebergs, and it's really powerful, and it might spur you to, like, I don't know, give money to a climate change organization or start working in climate change, or it might just inspire you to grab a chunk of ice and say, I ate ice from the Arctic Circle. But even that is kind of an interesting idea. So art has this power to sort of move people in directions. And again, you know, there's a fine line between persuasion and propaganda. And to some people, you know, some people's propaganda might be other people's sort of inspiring art. I chose this other painting. This is a painting called The Letter by James Tissot. I just learned about this today, and I was like, oh, I got to use this painting. So that last bullet point is, art can be a guide to live a better life. I must have, sorry about that, I must have cut it off. But so this painting, if we do that thing that we did with the ambassadors, where we go, what's going on here? You know, what's this all about? And you can see that there's a woman. Oh, can you go back? There we go. There's a woman sort of standing in the foreground, and it looks like she's in some kind of beautiful park. And then you can, if you look in the background, you see there's a guy, and he's kind of standing over a table. And the more you investigate, the more you see things like, that guy back there looks like he's like lifting dishes. So maybe he's a waiter at this cafe, and maybe she just left that cafe. And then if you look at, you know, the look on her face, and then you look at her hands, and you can see that she seems to be like grabbing something. And then you look over to the left of her, right? Anyway, there's like little fluttering white things. And then if you piece that together with the title of the thing, The Letter, you start to go, oh, this is a whole story about how a woman probably waited for a man to show up, and then he didn't show up, and he, you know, sent a letter, and you know, she's angry, and so she's leaving, and she's like ripping up this letter, and it's falling on the ground like the falling leaves that are there. And she's moving on with her life. You know, and she's not sticking around for this loser guy anymore, or whatever. And I like this painting because it shows like this sort of empowering thing, you know, of like everybody's found themselves in a situation where they've like counted on somebody and that person let them down. But this woman is like, no, I'm moving on, and this deliberate act of ripping up this letter is proof of that. So this is one of a million examples of like an artwork that can inspire you to do more, to be more. So, okay, next one. And then I think this is the last one, and then we're going to do our activity. So this is this last one is art as connection, and this, I like this one a lot. This one can show you the way that people have lived in the past. And again, you know, like just that room at Chateau Hoyac that we looked at the beginning is a way of showing you how people lived in the past. And the fact that they had a little fireplace, and, you know, you go, oh, I have a fireplace. I'm just like people 10,000 years ago. Or it can remind you of sort of something in your own past. So this painting is by Diego Rivera, and it's called The Flower Carrier. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen this in real life. I think it's in San Francisco at the SF MoMA. But it's this painting of this peasant who's trying to make it to the market with his giant basket of flowers on his back. And it's like his wife is trying to help him. And Diego Rivera was a socialist. I mean, he was a communist, actually, more than a socialist. And you know, he definitely believed in sort of, oh, I'm sorry, Caroline, go ahead. Sorry, I was just gonna
say, my mom loves this, and this painting has been in our house like since I was a child. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And she always talks about it, always tells me a story. She went to something recently having to do with Diego Rivera and Cesar Chavez and stuff like that, and told us all about it again. And I'm like, I've been staring at this painting since I was a child.
Well,
so
maybe you can tell us then. What does your mom tell you about this painting? Like, what's important to her that she conveys to you? Is it me, or can I not hear her?
You're muted, Caroline.
Or there's something about it.
Oh. We couldn't hear you, Caroline. Can you try that again?
Oh, I was just saying, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just saying I've heard her tell me it a million times, but I couldn't repeat it. But you should look it up, look up the painting and the story, because clearly there's something to it. And it's just interesting that you put it with Artist Connection, because it's like, that's definitely a painting I will remember for the rest of my life.
Good. Well, again, just like April, maybe this can be the thing that you share with us. So I will just tell you quickly the story, which is this can be symbolic of the sort of the crushing power of capitalism, right? Like this guy, he needs to sell these flowers, he needs to get them to market, but it's almost killing him to get there. And so the act of engaging in capitalism is crippling to the point where he's crawling to make money. I mean, that's pretty in your face about sort of, you know, how Diego Rivera felt about capitalism. But also, you know, Diego Rivera is Mexican, and there are many people with Mexican heritage that, you know, are not in Mexico anymore. My wife is one of them, and seeing people like that have the same color skin as them in a museum or something, or have the same sort of facial features or whatever. That's another part of this, that like you go to a museum and it's like, I don't see myself. I mean, I do because I'm who I am, but you know, many people don't. And so artwork can have this power too, to go, oh, you know, there are people out there like me who have been celebrated, or you show sympathy for, or something, you know. So there's not only this sort of this way of showing this is how people lived in the past, but also there's this connection to maybe your own past, or maybe your own life, that art can achieve. Okay, I think that's nearly the end. Let's get to the next slide, and then we'll see what's coming up. Okay, so I'm going to kind of hand it off to you, but before I do that, I'm going to do the activity so you can kind of see what I'm looking for. And the first question is, which of the reasons why art matters resonated most for you, and why? And the second one is, and then underneath I put the shortened versions of all of those. Decorative, it matters decoratively, interrogatively, therapeutically, inspirationally, connectively. I don't know the way to say that. Or maybe there's another reason that I didn't cover. And you're free to say art matters to me not because of these things you said, but for another reason. And then the other question is there an artwork that had a profound effect on you? And what is the artwork, and why did it affect you so? Now, again, I know that two of you have something in your life. So Tandra, I'm going to assume that maybe you have something too. But if you don't, that's okay, because you can answer the first part of the question. But I'm going to show you mine, and then I'll tell you which of the reasons mattered, and then why this had a profound effect on me. So Ben, you want to go to the next slide? Okay. I love showing this painting to people because they're like, what is wrong with this guy and this black painting? Okay, so this is a painting by Ad Reinhardt. It's called Abstract Painting. And this is the painting, the thing that resonates, all of them resonate with me, but there's something about the interrogative, the way that you ask and ask and ask until you get somewhere. And this painting gets you there. And so at first, when you're looking at this, you just see a black painting. But then if you kind of stare at it long enough, and it's weird because it's pixely and it's on the computer, but you start to notice very subtle differences in the painting. And if you kind of block out all the light and just kind of stare at the painting itself, and it might actually come alive to you. But Ad Reinhardt made these paintings where he basically used black or blue, and then he would just add a little bit of red or a little bit of green, and then he would thin out the paint so much that like there wasn't any texture or anything to it. And I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there's a cross in there, and there are kind of reddish rectangles on all corners, and then the vertical line is bluish, and then the horizontal line is greenish. And I love this painting because it reminds me to keep looking and try harder. Like it is a lesson for my life, right? Like when I'm lost or I'm trying to understand something, I often refer to this Ad Reinhardt painting, and I go, okay, like I didn't see that cross at the beginning, but you know, they wouldn't have put just a black painting in the museum or something. There was a reason that they put that there, and then I kept looking. I actually discovered this painting with my daughter, and she was like 3. I used to bring her to museums all the time, and we both sort of saw something, and then I said, pretend like we're wearing binoculars, and we put on our binoculars like we were hunting for something, and we saw the cross, and it was bright, like once you really get to see it. So I connect with this painting for a number of reasons, but mostly this painting just reminds me, look closer, you know, try harder. Something will make itself visible. You just have to keep going, I guess, is what I take from this painting. Okay, so I chose the thing about looking closer, and I showed you a painting, and I told you how it resonated with me. So I would like you to maybe take a minute or two, or I don't know if we have 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes might do it, to consider which one of those things resonated the most with you, and if there is an artwork out there that that you have in mind that like is very important to you. Maybe you can say it, and maybe Ben can type it into the bar, and we can all look at the painting together. So take a few minutes, and I don't know, what do we do at this point, Ben?
We'll take a few minutes.
All right.
And then,
all right.
We can return.
Okay.
I'm going to do some research.
Okay.